Hi guys! Welcome to my review of Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. Confessions of an Economic Hitman was published in 2004 and is the autobiography of John Perkins, who identifies himself in the book as an economic hitman. So what is an economic hitman? John Perkins explains that an economic hitman is a well-paid professional hired by a U.S. corporation to go into developing countries, assess their resources and their needs for buildings and engineering facilities and all that, and convince the people in power in those developing countries to take out huge loans from organizations like USAID or World Bank and contract American companies, American construction engineering companies, to do these works in their developing country to help grow the economy. The catch to all this is that by taking those funds and contracting American companies to do your work, the funds leave the US and go back into the US without actually affecting the US economy at all. But this is done via a third developing company that is in debt with a huge amount of money that they cannot pay back, and thus they remain indebted to the US government. And because they cannot pay their debt, they have to repay the US government in favors like votes and resources and all that. This is the way that the US empire expanded in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's what John Perkins says. And he identifies as one of these economic hitmen who worked for the consulting company Maine, talks about different countries that he went to and did this, and explains how by doing this events were caused, like world events were caused, and that helped grow the American empire. That is, and how this is how America became the world superpower. He talks about his work in Indonesia, in Ecuador, in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, in I can't remember, in Panama. When it came out in 2004, it was met with a lot of skepticism and criticism by some people, and some people saw it very enlightening, as it usually happens with these kind of books that speak of different crazy ideas that happen in the backstages of politics and international policy. By now, I think this idea has already been mentioned in a lot of documentaries and a lot of other books about like conspiracies and non-conspiracies and all that. So I don't think it's such a novel idea. I had heard about it before, so I wasn't shocked. I also don't know if it is all true or it is exaggerated. I'm not assessing that in this review because I'm not really that knowledgeable in all this. But I do think that it is an interesting book, and it's worth reading even if you don't believe everything that is said in it. The book is categorized as non-fiction, but it reads a little bit like fiction. The way it is told, it reads a bit like fiction, and that makes it accessible, so I liked that. It also, even though it's about economic hitman, you don't need to know anything about economy or have any knowledge in that, or math or statistics or much like that. It's very accessible to read. Also, the history that it talks about, all the world events that it talks about, it's done quite good. It doesn't take for granted your knowledge of these events. It explains about them, so that was good for me because I didn't know about a lot of the stuff that they talked about in all these countries, like in all these countries from South America, and I didn't know a lot about the politics there and all that. So that was interesting for me. Like I said before, I don't know if everything is true or if it's exaggerated, or I mean, I can't even exactly say what I choose to believe or not, because it's so much information and it's so much things to think about that I can't just say I believe all this or I don't believe all that. But what I thought what I think it did really well, and it actually spells it out for you towards the end of the book, is that John Perkins encourages people to think, especially people from first world countries that don't know of all these things and that have a good life for them, and they just basically all their information about what happens in other countries is from the media. He encourages people to think critically and read between the lines and not believe everything that is told, because there are interests behind everything, and some people just want to make you believe one side of the story, and it's always good to try to know more and just not just blindly believe in what the press tells you. Another thing that's interesting in the book is that he specifically spells out that this is not a conspiracy theory. This book is not trying to say that this is a conspiracy that is done behind people's backs. He's saying this is a system. This is a system that he calls a corporatocracy, a whole perpetuating system that is enabled by everyone by just willfully ignoring things that happen around you. Everyone encourages this system. He goes into small advice on how you can just boycott the system, kind of, and how you can, like use less gas, shop less. When you think about going shopping and taking your car around, just stay home and read a book, or just go jogging or something. Like don't give in to these temptations that are there to just consume, because you're just basically helping others exploit others. So that was very interesting. There are times when it gets a bit redundant. In every case, he over explains a bit the concept of an economic hitman and over explains what they do and how that affects negatively the countries, like the developing countries, how that widened the gap between the rich and the poor, and how the resources got in control of America and only the rich people in those countries, and how the poor are just poorer. And it was interesting at first, but then it kept doing that in every country, so it got a bit redundant. But overall, it was good. It was interesting. All in all, I really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I recommend it to people. I think even if you choose not to believe, or to believe what the information that is in this book, I think that overall it's a good, shaking up to just open your eyes and try to think a bit more critically about the world around you. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you back in my next video. Have a great day. Bye!